How a dark secret almost destroyed my family forever at midnight, shocking truth revealed. The clock chimed midnight. Every tick echoed like a heartbeat in the dead of the night. The town held its breath, shrouded in darkness. Underneath the quiet surface lay a cauldron of secrets and shadows. That night, the veil lifted, and the truth came clawing out. It all started with Mom's old trunk, hidden away in the attic. It had sat there for years, gathering dust and whispers. The rumors among us kids. It held treasures, artifacts from a life long gone. I had heard the stories, things that would make anyone shiver, strange letters, photos of long-forgotten faces, maybe even a hidden fortune. But it was more than just stories. It was a mystery wrapped in layers of family lies. Curiosity gnawed at my insides, pulling me closer. I could almost feel the secrets pulsing, desperate for the light. That night, I climbed up to the attic, the wooden ladder creaking like the bones of the house itself. My hands shook as I pulled at the trunk's rusty latch. When it finally opened, a rush of cold air seemed to escape, carrying with it the scent of something old, too old. I felt a tightness in my chest. What was I stepping into? Inside, beside dusty blankets and moth-eaten clothes, lay a stack of letters. They were fragile, yellowed with age, but the ink still held the weight of desperate emotions. I dare not breathe as I plucked one out. The words leaped off the page, whispering of betrayal, a hidden past revolving around midnight rendezvous. Suddenly, I was a part of something bigger, something darker. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just then, a scuffle outside broke the stillness. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I rushed to the window, peering into the gloom. Shadows flickered under the streetlights. They moved like phantoms, murmuring in the night. My heart raced. Were they searching for me? Or the secrets I'd uncovered? I felt exposed, caught in a web far more tangled than I had anticipated. As the whispers grew louder, I scrambled back to the trunk, gripping the letters tightly. My family's legacy was unraveling before my eyes, revealing a truth darker than I could ever have imagined. What had my parents hidden from me? And why did it feel like something was coming for me? With the door creaking ominously behind me, the night felt alive and threatening. I took a deep breath, the weight of generations resting in my hands. In the growing darkness, my heart raced with fear and anticipation. The truth was out there, and I had to unravel it before it unraveled me. What other secrets lay hidden, waiting to burst forth into the light? The wind howled, sending a chill through the attic. I held the letters tightly, as if they could protect me from whatever darkness lurked beyond. In that moment, all the whispers outside transformed into a cacophony in my mind. Each one seemed to shout the unspoken truths buried in my family's history: betrayal, loss, a shame that could ruin everything I thought I knew. That I could hear the rustle of footsteps on gravel. My pulse quickened, and I forced myself to focus. I flipped through the letters, searching for something, anything that could guide me through the chaos. The first few letters were from a woman named Eliza, probably in her 20s, as she poured her heart out onto the page. Words like desperation, running, no escape, jumped out, painting a picture of a life that felt torn from the pages of a horror novel. A trickle of sweat trickled down my back despite the cool draft. Each line pulled me deeper into her world. It was unsettling, raw, and, above all, frightening. One letter, in particular, sent shockwaves through me. I can no longer hide the truth, nor can I hold on to this lie, it began. My breath hitched. What truth was she referring to? The words echoed like a ghost trying to communicate from beyond the grave. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the house. My heart dropped. The trunk, the letters, everything felt more dangerous than I had imagined. I darted to the window again, squinting to see through the shadows. The moonlight revealed two figures at the end of the street, their silhouettes stark against the dim light. They seemed to be watching the house, their heads moving slightly as if they were searching for something or someone that I couldn't shake the feeling they were looking for me. Was my curiosity putting me in danger? I quickly scanned the room, desperate to find a hiding spot in case they decided to come closer. The shadows trailed into the attic, merging with the piles of old clothes and broken memories. I crouched down behind the trunk, heart thundering in my chest, hoping they wouldn't see the flicker of movement from the window. The figures moved closer, low voices creeping into my ears like icy tendrils. "Are you sure she found it?" one asked, his tone a blend of urgency and fear. "She has to have," came the reply, a voice I recognized, cold and distant. It was my brother's. My mind raced. What did he mean? What was so important they felt they had to search for me? I was suddenly reminded of the letters, the truth swirling around me like heavy fog. What if I had stumbled upon something much bigger than a mere family secret? Could my brother be involved in something sinister? The door creaked under its own menace, breathing life into my spiraling dread. A gust of wind rushed through the attic, scattering papers across the floor like a storm had just blown in. In that chaos, I felt a horrible realization wash over me. I was not just uncovering the past, I was standing at the precipice of something that could change my family forever. That I had to act fast. Gathering my courage, I turned to the trunk, determined to unearth more letters. The truth lay there, waiting. But just as I reached for them, the door swung open, revealing a shadowy figure beyond the frame, their intentions as unclear as the night itself. "Let us find out just how deep the secrets go," the words dripped with danger. What awaited me in the next moment? Were the whispers of the trunk ready to collide with the reality standing before me? I clenched my fists, ready to confront whatever awaited in that dark moment. The shadowed figure loomed in the doorway, the dim light casting an ominous aura around them. My chest tightened, and I edged back, trying to swallow the fear trying to claw its way out. Was this person a friend or an enemy? The silhouette shifted, and I caught a glint of metal, a flash of something sharp held tightly in their hand. "Who's there?" I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. My voice trembled, betraying my terror. "Your brother is looking for you," the figure croaked, the gravel in their voice sending a chill down my spine. "He wants the letters. Now." Letters? I saw a flicker of recognition in the shadow's stance. It seemed they knew more than they let on. Had my brother really sent them? Or was this just another puppet in whatever sinister game he was playing? I forced my eyes to search the figure's face, but the darkness offered no comfort. "What do you want with me?" I whispered, inching toward the trunk, the letters still cradled in my mind like precious jewels, laden with knowledge. "Please, you don't understand," the figure urged, stepping forward cautiously. The moonlight illuminated just enough for me to see a haunted expression, the kind that spoke of regrets and burdens carried through years. "He's in deeper than you realize. Your brother is not the person you think he is." Those words sent shockwaves through me. Doubt crept in, settling like bitterness on my tongue. What if the letters contained a poison that could ruin everything? What if the truth was worse than betrayal, better left buried? "Step away," I commanded, my legs trembling but resolute. I had to protect the letters at all costs. I had to know what truth they held. "Wait. You can't just dive into this," the figure pleaded, their voice rising with urgency. "You have to see the bigger picture." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from downstairs, shaking the very beams of the attic. My heart raced again, the cacophony amplifying my fear. Were the figures below coming in? I needed to buy time. I wasn't ready. I turned back to the trunk, hands shaking as I fumbled with the lid. The letters felt like earth-shattering evidence, but would they shred the very fabric of my family's existence? I looked up just in time to see the figure moving closer, their face now defined by the pale light. It was a woman, disheveled hair and tear-lined cheeks. I was just like you," she whispered. "Caught in the web of his lies. But it's worse for you. You're not safe here." The floorboards creaked beneath me as I backed away, the weight of her words pressing into my chest. "What do you know about him? About the letters?" In the dim light, I watched her shake her head, despair etched into every line of her face. I know he sold his soul for this secret. For this family name, she said, an edge of desperation in her voice that pricked at my resolve. You're his next move, don't you see that? No. I shouted, my emotions boiling over. The attic felt like a prison closing in on me. I won to be his pawn. In that instant, another crash echoed below, followed by shouting voices. They were closing in. Time slipped away, leaving me no choice but to act. I lunged for the trunk, flinging it open, desperate to find the truth whatever it was and confront whatever darkness lay behind it. The letters fluttered like a storm, a whirlwind of my family's secrets, but as I sifted through them, the shadows shifted again at the doorway, and the woman's warning echoed louder than ever. He's coming for you, run, now. And in that moment, I understood, it was time to decide. Would I stay and face the truth, or risk everything to escape this nightmare? Let us see just how deep the secrets really go, I whispered to myself, steeling my resolve. The sound of footsteps echoed through the hall, and I knew a choice was upon me. Would I unearth the hidden horror, or would I become part of the darkness? The crashing sound grew louder, splitting the air like a thunderclap. My heart raced, each beat a frantic drum echoing in my ears. The woman's eyes widened, panic splashing across her face. You have to go, she urged, glancing toward the open door as though fear itself were creeping closer on the cold draft that I hesitated, torn between the letters that had just danced in my hands and the urgency of escape. A part of me screamed to stay, to unearth the truth buried in those pages, but the gnawing terror of what awaited me outside was nearly unbearable. With a sudden, bold decision, I shoved the nearest letters back into the trunk and slammed it shut, locking my eyes onto the woman. Help me. If my brother is hunting me, I can't do this alone. She hesitated, glancing nervously at the door. Trust me, you don't want to be here. If he finds you with those letters, it's over. There was a raw sincerity in her voice, a plea laced with desperation. I took a deep breath, my fear sharpening into focus. Then what do we do? Follow me, she whispered urgently, darting toward the far corner of the attic. An old trapdoor lay hidden beneath a pile of dusty crates and boxes. She began to push them aside vigorously, sweat beading on her forehead. I joined her, shoving away the debris, adrenaline propelling my frail muscles. Each creak of the floorboards made me jump, but the tick of time drove me on as the shouting voices below escalated into chaos. They're close. Finally, the door creaked open, revealing a dark stairwell descending into the unknown. The woman shot me a look, the glint of panic dancing in her eyes. We have to be quick and quiet. As we slipped down the narrow staircase, the air thickened with the scent of mildew and hidden memories. I felt the weight of my family's past pressing down, a suffocating shroud. Each step brought me closer to whatever fate awaited us below. When we reached the bottom, we were met by a small, dimly lit room that smelled of dust and despair. Old boxes lined the walls, their forgotten secrets hidden in the shadows. The woman's breath came ragged, her gaze darting toward the door we'd just come through. Do you have a way out? I asked, my mind racing. A window, but it leads to the alley behind the house. We'll be exposed, but it's better than facing him. You have to promise to stick close to me, no matter what. I nodded, fear wrapping around my insides tighter than a vice. I promise. Before we could move further, the door upstairs burst open, and loud footsteps filled the space, followed by shouting. Search every corner. Find her. I felt my stomach drop. They were coming for me and my heart raced faster than I thought possible. What now? I whispered, my voice barely escaping my lips. Quick. Over here. The woman pulled me toward the window, shoving it open. The night air rushed in, carrying with it the distant sounds of chaos from the street. Climb out first, she instructed, urgency tumbling from her lips that I scrambled through the gap, the rough frame scraping against my skin. The cold night wrapped around me, and for a brief moment, the outside world felt so alive. But looking back, I saw the outline of shadows converging above. Come on. I urged, my voice fraying with panic. She was almost through when I heard her gasp, a piercing sound that split the night. No. I reached for her, my hands grasping for her outstretched fingers. A loud crash boomed from above as the figures descended, their menacing forms spilling into view. My breath caught, and with a deep panic, I shouted, "Run!" But just as she joined me outside, I saw a flash of metal glinting in the moonlight. My heart dropped as the cold realization struck we weren't alone anymore. The hunt had truly begun, and I had just thrown myself headfirst into the darkness of my brother's world. We raced down the narrow alley, fear driving us from behind. But as we turned a corner, I felt a sensation like icy fingers creeping up my spine. Someone was watching us, and every instinct screamed that doom was about to unfold. "Who's there?" I shouted into the shadowy depths of the alley, my voice trembling. But the darkness was silent, save for the echoes of our heavy breaths. What terrifying truth awaited us as we plunged deeper into the night? I strained my eyes, searching the shadows. The narrow alley felt like a twisted hallway of nightmares, each turn revealing more than I wanted to see. The silence pressed against me, thick and unforgiving. My heart thudded in my chest, each beat a reminder that time was running out. "Keep moving," the woman whispered, urgency lacing her voice. I nodded, even as doubt gnawed at my insides. Had my brother truly overstepped the bounds of family loyalty? We ducked down another alley, the dense darkness wrapping around us like a shroud. I stole a glance at her, her face illuminated by fleeting moonlight. There was a determination in her eyes that flickered like a candle in the wind. "If we can just get to the next street," she murmured, almost to herself. Suddenly, a loud crash shattered the stillness. It echoed through the alley like the roar of a beast awakening from slumber. My instincts kicked in, and I bolted forward, grabbing her wrist as I pulled her along. "Did you hear that?" I gasped. "Of course I did," she snapped, darting a glance behind us. "Just run." Before I could respond, a dark figure lurked into view from the mouth of the alley. Tall and broad-shouldered, he moved with an unsettling ease, shadows clinging to him like a second skin. Panic surged as my heart raced faster. "That's him," I hissed, shaking my head in disbelief. "He's found us." "Not yet," she urged, eyes wide. "We need to cut through the loading dock. It leads to the street." I didn't hesitate this time, sprinting hard toward the dimly lit area around the corner. We skidded into the loading dock, the air heavy with the scent of old crates and oil. My breath came in ragged gasps, each one constricted by fear. As we ducked behind a stack of wooden pallets, I could hear the footsteps of our pursuer nearing. They were more than just footsteps, they were like thunder, signaling the end if we couldn't find a way out. I pressed my back against the rough wood, shivering as the sudden chill of adrenaline coursed through me. From our hiding spot, I could catch sight of the doorway leading out to the street. Freedom was tantalizingly close, but I could feel my brother's presence looming like a thunderstorm about to unleash its fury. "We can't stay here," I whispered, each word tinged with desperation. "What do you want to do?" she replied, her tone not matching my frantic energy. "We need to wait for him to pass." But I could see his features now, somewhere beyond the dark an expression of ruthless determination painting his face. I could almost feel the hatred radiating off him, an all-consuming fire that threatened to consume everything in its path. Just then, the unmistakable clink of metal pierced through the air, slicing through our whispered fears. I shot her a frantic look. "He's got a weapon. We need to move now." "On three," she whispered urgently. 1, 2, but before she could say 3, the shadow of my brother moved between the crates. He paused, narrowing his eyes, as if he could sense us hidden there. Panic surged in me again, and I reached for her arm. "We have to run, now." The moment we sprang from our hiding spot, his sharp voice pierced the night. "I know you're here. You can't hide from me." We bolted toward the exit, hearts pounding like war drums, desperate to escape the fate he was closing in on us. Just as we rushed into the open, a piercing shot rang out, shattering the stillness of the night. I barely registered the sound before realizing too late that we'd stepped into a trap. The echoes of danger reverberated in my ears. "Keep moving," she shouted, pulling me away as I registered the chaos unfolding behind us and the streets. A ripple of screams erupted, washing over us, filling the air with dread. I glanced back, and my breath caught. My brother stood there, silhouetted against the chaos, a cruel smile playing at the corners of his lips. "Don't think you can escape. This is just the beginning." His voice echoed, chilling me to the core. What was he hiding? What dark secrets had twisted his heart? With every step, I felt the weight of history pressing down. I had to know what lay beneath this nightmare, but the sound of approaching sirens drew nearer, intertwining with the growl of a rising storm. Did my brother know something more? Where do we go now? I panted, glancing at her, desperate for answers. The alley loomed ominously, the shadows shifting like dancers waiting for a cue. "There's a place I know," she said, urgency spilling from her voice again. "But we might not be safe there." And with that, we ran deeper into the night, fearing what awaited us in the darkness ahead. What awaited us there? Would I finally discover the truth, or had I sealed my own fate by plunging into this nightmare? As we sprinted through the winding alleys, the sirens grew louder. They were a cacophony of chaos, slicing through the thick tension that hung in the air like fog. My legs moved on instinct, fueled by fear and urgency. Each step carried the weight of our fading hope for sanctuary. "Where exactly are we going?" I shouted, breathless. She darted a glance back, her face set in grim determination. "Just follow me. Trust me." We rounded a corner and slipped into a narrower passageway lined with crumbling brick on either side. The density of the shadows pressed against us like a living creature. It felt alive, ready to swallow us whole. My heart raced, and I almost stumbled as we skated past a group of homeless people huddled together, their eyes wide with panic as they tried to comprehend the chaos erupting outside. The woman beside me hesitated for a split second, her brow furrowed. "They can't help us here. We need to keep going." I swallowed hard, fear pooling in my stomach. "What about the police?" "They'll help us. They can't stop him, nobody can," she said, urgency bleeding into her voice. The rawness of her words hit me like a slap. Was she hiding something? In that moment, I felt the familiar sting of betrayal, a thread binding me to my brother even tighter. Suddenly, a loud crash reverberated against the walls, and I froze. My instincts shrieked at me to take cover, but there wasn't any time. I could hear heavy footsteps following us. My brother wouldn't give up. "Go. Go." With a shove, she propelled me forward. We raced past an alleyway that led to a small street lamp, flickering like a dying star. I wanted to collapse beneath it, let its light wash over me and banish the shadows. But I couldn't. My brother was coming, and I could feel his malevolence trailing behind us like a storm cloud. "Up ahead," she grunted, pointing to a dilapidated building. "We can hide there until he passes." In a few desperate lunges, we reached the crumbling door, pushing it open with a loud creak that echoed through the emptiness inside. The stale air hit me, thick and heavy, as we ducked inside. We barely had a moment to catch our breath before we crouched behind a rusted furnace, its metal surface cold and unwelcoming. The darkness inside the building seemed denser than the outside. I could barely make out her features, but I could feel her tremors. "What is going on?" I finally demanded, the despair rising in my throat. "You have to tell me the truth." She hesitated, her eyes darting around as if even the walls could hear us. "He's not who you think he is. There's something about him, something dark." Before I could ask for clarification, the door slammed open, the sound echoing like gunfire, and my heart dropped. A silhouette filled the doorway. "I can smell you," he growled, voice laced with a predatory hunger. "You think you can run forever?" Holding my breath, I leaned closer to her, our backs pressed against the cold metal. "What do we do?" I whispered, panic fighting for dominance in my mind. "Stay quiet," she instructed, her eyes wide. "Just let him pass." But my pulse thundered in my ears, drowning out the chaos. I could feel my brother's rage, hot and palpable, pulling at the deepest parts of my fear. With every passing moment, a sinister thought crept into my mind. What if he wasn't just hunting me? What if there was something even darker lurking in the shadows of our family history, something he was desperate to protect? Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the hallway, and my brother's figure lunged toward the sound. "I know you're in here," he shouted with a manic, disillusioned glee. "Now's our chance," she hissed, and before I could consider our options, we surged toward the back exit of the building. As we scrambled outside, the heavy weight of dread settled on my shoulders once more. Where could we run that he couldn't find us? The night concealed so many secrets, and I was terrified to discover all of them. Stumbling into the narrow streets again, I could feel my brother's malicious pursuit gathering steam. But would it truly reveal the dark secret that bound us, or would it plunge us both deeper into despair? I glanced at her, my heart racing. "What did you mean when you said he was dark? What's the truth about him?" "What I didn't tell you," she paused, her expression flickering with dread. "It could change everything." And in that moment, the sirens screamed into the night, a haunting melody that danced with our fears. What did I truly know about my brother, and more importantly, was I ready to face the twisted truth behind the horror awaiting us? The alley swallowed us as we darted back into the shadows, my heart pounding like a drum against my ribs. My breath came shallow and ragged. The woman beside me, was she an ally or a ghost guiding me toward my doom? Each second stretched thin, and fear clawed at my insides. "We can't hide here much longer," she whispered urgently, her eyes darting left and right. "He'll know we're close." "Where do we go then?" I asked, my throat tightening. "Can't you tell me more about what you meant?" Her face tightened in the dark, and I saw a flicker of indecision. "Not here, I can't. It's not safe." A thunderous crash erupted in the distance. The sound sent a jolt down my spine. "That's him!" I screamed, panic flaring. "Let us move," she hissed, grabbing my wrist again, pulling me further down the alley. The sound of our footsteps echoed off the brick walls behind us, a macabre rhythm that only intensified my fear. We rounded another corner, my senses heightened and alert. Every shadow felt alive, every flickering light a potential trap. What if he really is? I hesitated, the weight of my question hanging in the air. What if he truly is something dark? She paused, her breath coming quick. "If he comes after you, he won't stop until he has you," she said, her tone grave. "His obsession, it runs deeper than you can fathom." We ducked into another narrow passage, the air growing colder and more oppressive. I could feel his presence lingering like a ghost at the edges of my mind. It was suffocating. Why? Why is he like this? Isn't there anything we can do? I felt desperation seep into my voice, my fingers trembling. "Look, you don't know the half of it," she hissed. "Your brother, he's been changed. There are forces at play that we can't control, secrets that have twisted him." "What kind of forces?" I pressed, but I could see it in her eyes. She was terrified. Before she could answer, a low growl resonated from the entrance behind us. "He's closing in." My voice cracked as we pressed deeper into the shadows. She guided me through a maze of wreckage, each turn more chaotic than the last. We stumbled into a small courtyard, the moonlight spilling down like silver paint. There, I caught my breath. A sudden silence blanketed us, sharp and consuming, juxtaposed against the anxious rhythm of our hearts. "What do we do?" I whispered the question to her, knowing every second mattered. "Up there." She pointed to an adjacent rooftop, barely illuminated. "If we can climb, we might find a way to escape." But as we turned back to the entrance, my brother burst into the courtyard, his figure outlined against the darkness. "You can't hide from me," he snarled, eyes glowing with a manic fervor. We barely had time to react. Without thinking, we dashed toward the walls, my heart pounding louder than ever. "What is he?" I shouted, the urgent question ripping itself from my throat. "Your darkness doesn't belong to him. It belongs to you." She screamed, urgency and desperation woven into her words as we scrambled up the crumbling stones. I don't understand. Just let go. Trust yourself. Her voice was sharp, driving me forward even as I wanted to collapse under the weight of confusion and betrayal that moment. I reached the rooftop, gripped the edge, and pulled myself up just as my brother lunged forward, his intent seething. I'll find you. He yelled, his gaze locked on me, burning with relentless hunger. As I looked down, catching my breath, I felt something shift inside me. What did it mean to truly embrace my darkness? What if the power to confront him had always been within me? But before I could delve deeper into the revelation, the rooftop creaked ominously underfoot, sending a shiver of dread through my soul. We need to move now, she urged, pulling me away from the edge. What hidden truths were waiting for me? What dark choices would I have to make to survive? I felt the promise of chaos slithering closer, and then, a piercing scream cut through the air, chilling me to the core, and it didn't belong to me. I spun. What kind of horror was truly unleashed? The scream shattered the night, slicing through the thick tension like glass. My heart raced as I swung around, desperate to understand. What was that? I gasped, every muscle in my body tense and ready to bolt. The woman beside me, her face a mask of fear, didn't answer. Her eyes were glued to the edge of the rooftop, scanning the dark street below. Another scream echoed, this time more distant, but the terror in it felt close enough to swallow me whole. Is that someone else? I dared to ask, but I hardly registered her nod. The moonlight flickered, illuminating the desperate lines on her face. We have to go. Now, she urged, grabbing my arm and pulling me toward the rooftop's far side. Each step felt like I was dragging the weight of the world behind me. I stole a glance over the ledge, heart sinking. The world below was a twisted nightmare, a broken cityscape with shadows that danced like malevolent spirits. A group of people huddled together, their whispers rising in frantic urgency, oblivious to the terror that hunted us. Trust me, she commanded, her voice a lifeline in the chaos. We can't let him trap us. Not now. But her forceful tone didn't erase the dread gnawing at my insides. Each echo of my brother's calls seemed to close in on me. What if he finds us? He won. She replied too quickly, and I could tell she didn't believe it herself. We just need to reach the next building. I've seen him move in the dark. He'll be searching. We darted across the rooftop, the gravel crunching beneath our feet. Every noise sent sharp spikes of fear through my chest. The woman led the way, her movements lithe and fluid, while I stumbled, the horror of moments ago still stinging in my mind. A sudden breeze swept across the rooftop, chilling me to the bone. I shivered, shaking off a sense of foreboding. The creatures of the night stirred below, whispering secrets. Shapes flitted in and out of sight, adding to the nightmare of our escape. Over here, she urged, gesturing toward a large, rusted fire escape that hung precariously from the building's side. I clung to her as we climbed down, every step an exercise in maintaining our nerve. A muffled sound reached my ears, a thud, then a low growl. It sent a wave of nausea through me. What is happening? I whispered, panic bubbling to the surface. I can't do this. Focus. She snapped, urgency layered in her voice. Don't let fear control you, his power grows with your doubt. I felt her strength bolstering me, the flicker of courage igniting. The thought of my brother rising from the shadows, transformed into something unrecognizable, pulled me from my despair. But how am I supposed to fight him? I asked, the vulnerability spilling out of me. Embrace your darkness, she replied, her features resolute in the light of the moon. That's where your true strength lies. As we reached the bottom of the stairs, I paused, heart pounding. The alley stretched out before us. I could hear faint hurried footsteps, a voice shouting from the distance. My brother was closer than ever, a predator prowling for his prey. We turned the corner, and there he stood, silhouetted against the streetlight. You think you can escape me? His voice slithered through the air, tainted by an otherworldly echo. His grin widened, revealing more than just his teeth. It was a glimpse of darkness that sent shivers racing down my spine. "I want to let you take her," I shouted, the words bursting forth from some hidden place I didn't know I had. The woman beside me stiffened, and suddenly, it was as if the world stood still. "You'll have to fight," she urged softly, her eyes meeting mine. "You can break his hold over you." The space thickened with tension, his presence ballooning around us like a storm. "Are you ready to embrace what you are?" His laughter ricocheted off the walls, dark and unsettling. My heart hammered as I took a step forward. The shadows around me seemed to thrum with energy. Just then, the moon overhead shifted, casting a beam of light that felt like a beacon or a betrayal. Before I could process what was happening, a surge of power coursed through me, both exhilarating and terrifying. It was the moment of truth, standing on the precipice of what I could become. Would I succumb to the shadows or become the very light to banish him? The air crackled with energy, heavy with uncertainty as his gaze pierced through me. "This is just the beginning," he whispered, the grin on his face widening even further. What would I choose to become in that moment of reckoning? The moment hung like a blade in the air, sharp and dangerous. I could feel my pulse racing, thudding in my ears, drowning out the world around us. The alley's south walls seemed to close in as he stood there, the embodiment of a nightmare made flesh. His head tilted, his grin stretching impossibly wide, and suddenly the shadows that clung to him began to undulate, casting dark tendrils toward me. "Make your choice," he hissed, each word thick with malice. "Join me or perish. It's that simple." I swallowed hard. What had I become? A fighting spirit brewed inside me, fighting against the fear wrapping around my chest like a vice. His voice echoed, clamoring for my surrender, but deep down, I felt something raw and powerful surging through me, fueled by desperation and love for my brother. "I want to join you," I shouted, my voice carrying more conviction than I felt. The very air around us shimmered with unspent energy, ready to explode. "Is that so?" He stepped closer, casting a shadow that engulfed the flickering streetlight. "Did you really think you could resist? You're just like him, haunted by the darkness. You'll never be free until you accept it." His words struck like daggers. I looked at the woman beside me, her eyes locked onto mine, pleading. "You're stronger than he wants you to believe. Trust in it." She edged closer, bolstering my resolve. I closed my eyes for just a moment, letting the fear dissolve. With it, I felt clarity. The whispers of the alley became clearer. Those frantic echoes from the rooftop, the screams I had dismissed, were warnings. They were a chorus of the hunted. Just like me, something shifted inside me. A flicker of light glinted through the chaos. I opened my eyes, knowing what I needed to do. "I accept my darkness," I declared, feeling the storm within align with my words. The instant I spoke, a shockwave radiated from me, flickering against the inky shadows creeping forward. He staggered back, surprise dancing across his features. "What have you done?" He scoffed, yet there was a crack in his confidence. "I'm not afraid of you anymore," I replied, feeling the power swell like thunder. I took a step forward, ready to face the abyss. "You can't control me." His laughter rang out, but it was less certain now, tinged with fear. "You think this changes anything? You're still nothing but a pawn." But I didn't stumble. I could feel the latent strength coursing through me, the acceptance of both light and dark. "Just wait and see," I breathed, feeling the urge to act surge through my limbs. Suddenly, reality shifted. The shadows enveloping me recoiled, spiraling away from my body, sparking like flint. I extended my hands, and the shadows writhed, drawn to me, curiously hesitant, as if tasting my intentions. The air crackled with energy, raw, chaotic, and alive. I dared to look at the woman beside me, her eyes shone with a fierce belief. "Do it. Show him the true power of your light." "Your turn," I hissed as I turned my focus back to him, channeling the energy flowing from the darkness, trying to shape it into something that could push him away. His eyes widened. "No. You can't," he barely managed to utter before the shadows exploded from my grasp, swirling around us like a tempest. Just as the energy reached its peak, a loud crash echoed from the far end of the alley. A shadowed figure whipped around the corner. The sudden interruption jerked my concentration, causing the energy to burst outward in a blinding flash that illuminated the alley. As my vision cleared, I felt a cold dread grip me. The new figure was one I feared most, my brother, a reflection of what he could become, eyes glinting with a familiar darkness. "What have you done?" he shouted, panic mixing with rage. The shadows trembled, wavering between us, and I suddenly understood. It wasn't just him hunting me. I was fighting for my family, and now the stakes were higher than ever. Could we turn this tide together? Or would the darkness consume us all? Time hung in a delicate balance, and every second led us closer to an irreversible fate. The shadows around us danced with a sinister energy, swirling like a storm ready to strike. My brother stood at the edge of the alley, a twisted figure cloaked in menace. I felt the power simmering within me, a potent mix of fear and defiance coursing through my veins. "I want to let you take her." "Not now." He spat, his voice filled with rage and desperation. Right then, the air thickened, the tension so palpable it felt like a living thing. "Your fight is with me," I shouted, stepping forward, fueled by a newfound strength that surged through me. In that moment, the weight of my family's twisted legacy pressed down heavily, but I knew I couldn't turn back. No more hiding from truths buried in shadows. "Do you really think you can stand against me?" he challenged, eyes glittering with a dangerous intensity. His words dripped with scorn, but I saw the flicker of uncertainty. Fear clawed at his heart, hidden beneath layers of darkness. "I'm not afraid anymore," I shouted back, the conviction ringing louder than any fear could echo. "You've twisted our family with regret and deceit, but I refuse to be part of it." The storm of shadows roiled around me, drawn by my voice, harnessing the energy that swirled in a fierce tornado. I could feel their latent power responding to my intent. Behind me, I sensed movement. The woman stepped closer, her resolve solid. I caught her defiant gaze, and in that moment, we became allies fighting against the very same bloodline that threatened to consume us. "Focus," she urged, nudging me back to the present. "You have to channel that power. Let it free." My brother's face twisted in disbelief. "What have you become?" he hissed, as the shadows began to blur the line between reality and imagination. "You're just giving in. This will only lead to your destruction. Not if I embrace it." I felt my pulse quicken, each heartbeat synchronizing with the movement of energy swirling around me. This is where our family's horror ends. I will break this cycle. With a deep breath, I swept my arms down, pulling the shadows toward me as if I could mold them into a weapon. The power surged, brightening the dim alley, igniting my courage. The world opened up, shadows coiling and unraveling, while I felt strength pulsing through me. "Let us end this," I yelled, the very air vibrating around us. With a fierce thrust, I unleashed the energy, sending waves of light into the darkness, a beautiful explosion of certainty blooming into the night. In one fluid motion, I turned to the woman. "Now!" Together, we shouted in unison, our voices a rallying cry amidst chaos. We brought the energy forward, our combined light illuminating the encroaching darkness. For an instant, it felt as if time stood still. The shadows recoiled, pulling away like mist under the morning sun. My brother staggered back, stunned. A flicker of recognition crossed his face. Did he realize the truth was spiraling away from him? No. His voice twisted with rage, his desperation palpable as he lashed out, trying to reclaim the shadows. Yet they fled from me, the light holding fast, an impenetrable barrier against his darkness. The night erupted in a blinding flash, shaking the very foundation of my family's buried sins. I pushed harder, anxiety and fear morphing into purpose. With every ounce of strength, the power transformed into threads of white light, weaving itself like a shield around us. "You cannot have us!" I screamed, driving forward, breaking the bonds of terror until all that remained was pure truth. With my fingers outstretched, the light coalesced, bursting forth in a radiant explosion that engulfed my brother entirely, washing over him in waves, illuminating his darkness with the truth of our shared history. I'm not the enemy, brother, I said, voice trembling with tears. We can end this. Your heart can still find the light if you let it. As the light enveloped him, I saw cracks forming in the dark facade he wore. The shadows writhed, pulled apart under the intensity. No. No. He fell to his knees, the darkness consuming him in turmoil. It was no longer an attack, but a gentle release, a chance for redemption. A chance for forgiveness, and then silence wrapped us. I felt the weight lift. Beneath the shimmering light, I witnessed my brother's face, a mix of pain and realization washing over him. His breathing slowed, calm returning to the chaos as my heart ached for the boy I once knew. I didn't want this, he murmured, hands trembling. Then give me the chance to help you. As the light faded, a serene hush descended upon the alley. My heart pounded like a drum, but there was hope lingering in the aftermath. A chance to rebuild, to face the truth that we may never have wanted, but desperately needed. The darkness receded, leaving only echoes of betrayal, but now laced with the potential for healing. Together, we could transform this shattered legacy into something that held meaning. Faced bravely, the woman beside me placed a hand on my shoulder, her gaze reflecting the understanding that had blossomed amidst the fear. We'll rebuild, I whispered, my heart open to what lay ahead. And as dawn kissed the edges of the night sky, we stood united, ready to forge our path and rewrite the narrative of our family's history. With one last glance back at the alley, I couldn't help but feel that the shadows would only serve as a reminder of the strength we discovered when we embraced the light together. Now, the time for action has come. Don't let this moment end by being silent. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow this community. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this incredible conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this thrilling ride with us. Your support makes all the difference.